Just take
a
John.
moment.
Tony's going to adjust it just a little bit here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Find the same position there.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is John Haller. Sorry for the mix up earlier. Bill and I were just off of operating on different time zones and not knowing it, and assuming the other one understood what the other one was saying. So I want to welcome Bill and Tania Koenig to the program. How are you guys doing?
Great, John.
Okay.
Well, very good, John. Thank you for having us.
Okay. So there's a few things going on in Israel right now, as you may have noticed. And just so you people know, Bill and I have known each other for a very long time. We're 4 weeks apart in age to the day. President Erdogan of Turkey was born between our two birthdays, so we're all the same age. And he has more power than we do. And he's at end times. Well, if this is the end times, he's clearly a player. So, Bill, I think back of all the things that we've done together over the years, and I was thinking one of the ones, remember we got together in DC one day, I was down there on business and you came over to the Mayflower Hotel and you told me, hey, I have some friends, they want me to meet this guy. So we went out the other entrance of the Mayflower Hotel, and this guy drives up in this old beat up pickup and gets out, and it's Phil Haney. Do you remember that?
Absolutely.
And I remember Phil was talking to us about all the things that he knew about Islam and everything. And I kept looking around like, is somebody, is there a big microphone pointed at us listening to all the things that we're talking about there? So that was an interesting day. So I want to go to what is being discussed right now with Trump and Netanyahu. But before I do that, the other day I sent you a link to it. There was a post on X by CAMERA, the Committee for Accuracy in Middle East Reporting and Analysis, great organization, camera.org. And they had posted an analysis of I'm going to switch this just a little bit, see if this looks better. I think it's a little bit better. Is the Palestinian Authority going to fall apart? And then they were talking a little bit about the fact that that there was a lot of concern about the security situation in the areas of Judea and Samaria. Now, you just got back from Israel, right? A little while ago.
Doc and I were there for 3 weeks and left on June 3rd. And thankful we left on the 3rd.
Okay, yeah, because everything. So what's today, the 26th? So it was about the 12th. It was actually 2 weeks ago today that I think everything kind of.
Yeah, the 13th, John. I really got it going on Friday the 13th.
Okay. So you had shared, and I know Tania, and I'd like you to weigh in on this. You were able to make a trip up to Samaria, to Nablus. Can you just tell us about what you were able to see on that part of your trip?
Well, it all started when William was in Washington with Yossi Dagan, who is the governor of Samaria and Judea. And the Lord, I was praying, and the Lord said, you are going to Josephstone. And I have a very good relationship with Yossi. And sometimes I speak to him as a mother, a Jewish mother. And I say, Yossi, this is not according to the word of the Lord. You have to do like this. And he hears me. He listens to me, and he appreciates it. And then he called me just before we went to Israel, and he said, what you wanted to do in Samaria? What can I do for you? Because I am like a brother to you. I said, I want to go to Josephstone because the Lord told me. And then he was very silent. And we went to Israel, and he was in Washington, D.C. when the pregnant woman was murdered in the middle of the night. and the child, the baby, they could save the baby for a while, and he also passed. And after a week, he had to go back to Israel very quick. And it was a turmoil in the politics there regarding what had happened, which afterwards was very good for Yossi Dagan and for Samaria and Judea. And one morning I woke up at 5 o'clock a.m. in Jerusalem, and I was like, I am really upset with Yossi. He has not get in contact with me so far. So I sent him a message and I said, why I am going to Josephstone. And then he replies me and he says, Tania, it's going to be tonight. We are going to Josephstone and we are having 43 families there that lost their sons and daughters in the Gaza war. And I want you to join us, and I'm going to send a car to pick you guys up. And it was a very like fauda, we did not know the time, we could not know the time. And then comes somebody there at 8 o'clock p.m.
It was incredible, John. I mean, it was a story right out of Fata, and we had a armored van that took us up there, and then we were just outside of Nablus, which is Shechem, and all of a sudden the IDF starts showing up in tanks, or not tanks, but I mean,
one tank.
Well, they had one tank. That's true. They had armored equipment.
So you drove from wherever you were, Jerusalem, up to Nablus in an armored vehicle?
Yes.
Yeah, totally armed.
Yeah, especially needed that armored vehicle as we got close to Shechem. So yeah, we went through Samaria up, and then met a bunch of Jewish people. We were the first bus in. They were taking multiple buses in there. So we were with Yossi Dagan.
Only Jews.
And we were everybody else was Jewish. We were the only Christians in this group. And our bus was filled with, like Tania said, about 43 people, mothers and fathers that had lost their children or loved ones in the war in Gaza on October 7th and thereabouts. So he wanted to honor them. So we went into Joseph's tomb with these families that were still grieving, and he gave them a chance to speak.
And the power, well, he spoke actually, most of the time he was really keen in all the history and about what Abraham, it was the promised land where Abraham came in Genesis 12. After the Lord had called him and said, the promise that everybody who curses you shall be cursed, everybody who blesses you shall be blessed. It was the same place where Jacob bought the land. And it was the place that Joseph was, and the one that kept the seed, that was the guardian of the seed. And it's all about the chosen people, and it's all about the attacks against the seed. So it was a very interesting and prophetical moment in our lives, because I believe there is a portal there is a gate, and it was where Abraham, Jacob, Joseph, the place where the promise was made, the covenant promise that the Lord was giving that to Abraham, and we stand, and that's why we stand there, and we stand here for this promise.
So it's one of my favorite Bible stories. It always has been since I was a kid, because it says as they're leaving Egypt and they took Joseph's bones.
Yeah.
But then they drug that poor guy all around the wilderness for 40 years and then into the time of the conquest before they buried him there in Shechem, or as some of the Jewish people say, Shem. And Bill, if you remember when you came on Trump's first foreign visit, he had gone to Saudi Arabia, but you joined up with them in Jerusalem, and we stayed together at an apartment, friend's apartment, for a few days. And I remember we were walking down the street one day to the restaurant and we ran into Mike Huckabee, if you remember, now the ambassador to the
Absolutely.
US. It was an amazing time. But Pam and I had been up to Shechem with Joel Kramer just before you got there.
Yes.
And we could not go to Mount Ebal where they found the Joshua's altar, because it was closed, because everybody was a little bit fired up in the Palestinian Arab community, particularly Nablus, which is a hotbed of terrorism.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, did you kind of come in through the side to get into Joseph Tomb, or did you come in through Nablus itself?
Nablus itself.
We went right in with Nablus. I mean, it was an unbelievable IDF presence.
They could not, the curtains were all down. They could not put the curtains up. There were IDF soldiers all over the place, and they were with the guns and the laser. We could see, and Yossi was, keeping showing us, there is one, there is another one. Yes.
Yeah, they just do it, John. They just do it once a year. And
right.
we were fortunately and blessed to be a guest of Yossi's for this day. And when they go in, I mean, like Tania said, the blinds are shut. No one looks out their windows. There was Israeli sharpshooters who were looking at windows with laser pointers. Anybody that stuck their head out could have been especially the
So you're talking in the apartment buildings and in the homes in Nablus, they had the windows shut.
Exactly, John.
Wow.
To Joseph's tomb. Yeah, it was unbelievable.
So when we were there with Joel, we drove up from Shiloh and we drove up into Nablus. And as we're driving in, I remember Joel said, we went through an Israeli checkpoint. And he said, it's always easy to get in. It's not necessarily easy to get out. And I didn't know what he meant at the time, but as we drove in, the day before we were there, a Jewish settler was going to one of the settlements there, and he was attacked by 40 Palestinian Arabs with rocks. And they're rocks. They're these giant rocks. And so and so he shot and killed 2 of them. And wounded one who was a supposed, as they say, he was a journalist. And so that afternoon, there were riots in Nablus. We were down in Hebron that day. So we get up there and we can see burned out tires, burned out cars from the riots the day before. But the other thing we noticed, and I don't know if you could see when you went in there, but every intersection in Nablus is a martyr square. They have a big painting of a happy looking guy, a terrorist, and those are paintings done based on a photograph taken before the guy went into Israel to do a suicide bombing. So, and it's every square. So we weren't able to go to Joseph's tomb because of the security situation, but we did go to Shechem, to the Tell. And so I will tell you, being there with the history that you mentioned, the Joshua and what happened there, and the tomb of Joseph and the purchase of, by Abraham, and also Jacob's well is right there, sort of between where Joseph's tomb is and the tell of the ancient city of Shechem. Just tell us what you were feeling when you went there and
Tania,
what it meant to you.
Well, John, it's unreal. I mean, it's first of all, I've been wanting to go for a long, long time, but then a long time, and I was so honored and privileged to be able to go there under such unbelievable circumstances with incredible security. But I looked off to my side, and Tania was very emotional. Obviously, she can explain it, but
I think
really
William
touched.
has never had seen me crying. I cry only when I pray, when I feel the power of the Holy Spirit. I am perhaps too Dutch to cry for anything. And the power of the Lord was overwhelmed. The power of the Holy Spirit in that place was, anybody could feel it. And the way that the people were, they accepted us, and they were applauding us, and they were thanking us for helping and standing for Israel. And it was unique. I cannot describe it in words. Only who had felt the presence of the Lord can describe what I mean.
And I will just affirm what you said. When Pam and I were there, when we were at Shechem, it's as you know, it's one of the most important biblical sites, and they're near the temple fortress, which you can read about in Judges, and then there's also passages in Joshua that apply. But it says at the end of Joshua that, Joshua made a covenant with the people, and he had them shout the blessings and the curses, and he met with them there, and it says that he erected a stone to commemorate it. Yeah. And when you go to the city of Shechem today, you can touch that stone that Joshua erected. Yeah. And it's just like you can go to the tomb of Joseph and you can be where the body of Joseph is buried. And the interesting thing that you said is these were Jewish people that accompanied you on that trip. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, we know many Christians leaders that always wanted to be there inside and they could not. And we were only with Jewish, and the way they were receiving us, and after they were applauding and thanking and being so grateful for us to stand with them for Israel.
That was huge, John, and also just to see the Jewish reverence for Joseph's tomb. I mean, it was really something to see these passionate Jewish men, women, and even children, that this was such an honor and privilege for them to be there as well as us. But to see this passion pour out, and many buses ended up coming in later, but I mean, it was all orchestrated once a year to come in, and to see this overwhelming excitement and passion and reverence was really something special.
And they don't really go to the tomb to worship Joseph. They go to pray there, remembering what Joseph meant to them, how Joseph saved them in Egypt.
Yes.
Actually, the suffering servant that saved them in Egypt.
Yes, absolutely. And to remind the covenant that the Lord had, and everything that Joseph went through, and what they are going through. They have been gone through, and they are still going through. And so we prayed together. Yossi brought us to the tomb. We could touch it, and we songs there, and it was very different.
It was a life impacting moment.
Yeah.
Have you been to Hebron, to the tomb of Machpelah?
No.
It's a very similar thing, because there are the graves of the patriarchs, Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, and Jacob and Leah. And there's a Muslim side and there's a Jewish side there, but there's a very deep sense of reverence, awe, respect for what this particular location means to them and to us as well. And so everywhere you go in the Holy Land, I'll just say this, and I don't want to occupy it. I want to get to the crazy things going on right now with Netanyahu and Trump. And I'll just use the term crazy in the sense that it's crazy. What's going on is happening so quickly. But as we left Shechem that day, we were going up to Mount Gerizim where the Samaritans lived, and we got stopped at the checkpoint. The one where on the way in, Joel Kramer said, "Oh, it's easy to get in. It might not be easy to get out." So when we get there, they have all the Palestinian people blocked. So there's about 20 trucks, vans, cars, and that type of thing. Each, so there's probably about 50 or 60 Palestinian guys, all guys standing around. And so Joel has to go up to the soldiers, the IDF soldiers, and negotiate. He takes our passports and he has to go up and negotiate us being able to leave. And the soldiers said to him, "You shouldn't be in Shechem because it's not safe to be here at night." And Joel said, "I know, that's why we're trying to leave, but you won't let us." And the one soldier said, "Why are you there?" Because, they're immediately going to think that you're some kind of supporting terrorists, because that's Nablus. It's all, it's a hotbed. And the soldier was an Orthodox Jewish soldier, the head of the contingent. And he said, Joel said, we went to Shechem. And he said, "All my life, I'm born in Israel. I'm an Orthodox Jew. I've never been able to go there. It's a mile away. Tell me about it." And he got very emotional.
Yeah.
And to me, I know we've talked about this, Bill, that to me, that's almost a scandal that, for example, we know Caroline Glick. I don't know that she's ever been to Shechem or to Joseph's tomb.
So true, John.
So true. We heard that
Heard it often
Many
for the weeks after, a couple weeks after that we were there.
rabbis that told us,
Yeah.
"Wow, we want to always. It's our dream to be there. We've never been there."
And to me, it's like a scandal that the heritage of the Jewish, they're denied looking and going to the place of their Jewish heritage.
Right.
And I hope it changes someday. Well, by the way, Tania, you wrote at watch.org, I think you wrote about your trip to Joseph's tomb, if I remember correctly. Very moving.
I did a little, summary of.
Very powerful. So I highly recommend it. By the way, go follow Bill's website, watch.org. And you also have a new YouTube channel, don't you? What's that called?
The Kingdom Come, and also WilliamKoenig.com. That's
okay.
WilliamKoenig.com.
I'll put those.
To subscribe and
I'll put those links in the show notes. I didn't know you had a YouTube channel, and then I saw it. So we'll be expecting you now that you're doing a live YouTube, that you'll be doing a lot of live YouTubes to keep us updated all the time,
Well, look forward to it, John. Thanks for the encouragement. You've always been a great encourager. Thank you.
Hey, if a guy my age can do it, a guy who's 4 weeks younger than me can surely do it.
Oh, we are still young.
Young in heart, waiting for our Messiah.
And by the way, how did we end up being 71 years old? How did that happen?
Only the Lord knows, John. I can't believe it. It just snuck up on me.
I'm telling you, I was born and then I became 71. And you don't know this, but Pam and I just had our 50th anniversary.
Yes. Congratulations.
And we took a 8,300 mile, 20 state trip across America, and we're still married after it.
A true bond.
That's right. We decided to put our marriage to the ultimate test, a road trip.
Oh, God.
So, Bill, you've written a number of great books, Eye to Eye. You wrote a book on the Obama administration. I think you're working on an update of Eye to Eye, aren't you?
Yes, on Trump's first term and the challenges that he faced with his peace to prosperity deal and also the Abraham Accords and the things that happened around that time.
Well, speaking of peace to prosperity deals and the Abraham Accords, did you see the articles today in Israel Hayom or Times of Israel about what's been discussed with Trump and Netanyahu?
Yes.
Okay, so what are you? I'm gonna put up a screen that shows it, but then I'm gonna let you guys talk about what is going on, what does this mean, and in light of what you've said all these years about dividing the land of Israel, are we in a bad spot with all of this? Go ahead.
Well, technically, John, yes. You know, during the negotiations, I'll put it this way: January 28, 2020, President Trump delivered his Peace to Prosperity plan that Jared Kushner had been working on. And I wrote a commentary, Life in America Before January 28, in the favor that President Trump had to life in America after he put a plan together and posted his two-state map on Twitter. And within a few hours, we had a 7.7 earthquake shake the Miami financial district. And that afternoon, Peter Navarro warned of a crisis coming to America called COVID, and that we needed to do something. 1 million lives, $3.5 trillion cost to the economy. But anyhow, it was a very difficult, from that point forward, President Trump, the favor that was on President Trump had diminished greatly. And then during the summer, when they were negotiating on the Abraham Accords, every time Kushner was working hard in the Accords, we would have these record-setting hurricanes. He'd back off, everything would calm. He'd go forward again, everything would get intense again. And even on September 15, 2020 at the White House, when the Abraham Accords was signed, a hurricane called Sally slammed into the southern Gulf Coast. Sally's a derivative.
Appears we just had a little bit of a glitch there with Bill. If you can try to come back in. Let's see. Well, I'll just talk. This is the vagaries of going live on something like this. Sometimes these things get clicked. And by the way, can you people hear me talk? Just somebody indicated in the chat that you can. I'll talk till I get him back. So I talked about this earlier. This is a very significant thing that we're reading. This is being reported in Israel Hayom and other places. And you know, I'm very concerned. Hang on a second here. I'm just trying to tell Bill to reconnect. So anyway, this is going to be a very, I think, a very rough spot for us as we go through these things, that they're trying to reconstitute the Abraham Accord, or they're trying to revive Trump's Peace to Prosperity plan, which Bill has written about extensively. And if we get him back, I'll ask him to comment on that. And we are in the Abraham Accords, the expansion of the Abraham Accords. There is an organization, you should look it up. It's called Abraham Shield, abrahamshield.org. And you can go there. It's a group of security experts, some of whom I've interviewed in the past, former heads of INSS, which is Israel National Security and Strategy. It's a think tank. And it's a little bit, a lot of them believe that there can be a Palestinian state. But I think the most troubling thing of what I'm seeing in the, here we go. Okay, I think I have you back.
Okay, great.
It's okay. That's the wonders of doing, the stress of doing live feeds and that type of thing. And as you do more and more live feeds, as we're encouraging you to do, you'll get to experience that stress firsthand. So it'll build character in both of you. But So, Bill, I was talking a little bit about the what's going on with Trump and Netanyahu, and it appears to me, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it appears to me that this is a really big push to revive the peace to prosperity plan that Trump put forth in his first administration.
Yes.
So talk about that a little bit. I mean, I know you wrote on this, just sort of summarize for us what happened when this peace and prosperity plan was introduced at the White House in January of 2020.
Well, John, I wrote a commentary, Life in America Before January 28 and Life After President Trump introduced his Peace to Prosperity plan. He put a Palestinian, he put a map on the internet that showed two states, Israel's and the Palestinian. No president had ever put a map together on a future Palestinian state. Even his chief of staff, I talked to Mark Meadows and I said, Mark, you know, this is covenant land. This is God's covenant land. No president, no one has the right to divide this land. He said, well, we didn't think they'd take the deal anyhow. But what happened, John, is from that point, from the time that he put his plan together and he put his map on Twitter, 65 million people around the world that are on his Twitter site saw a future Palestinian state map. And then a 7.7 earthquake shook the Miami financial district within a few hours of his map going up. And then Peter Navarro warned the White House that afternoon that a major crisis was coming to America called the coronavirus. And he said it would cost 1 million lives and $3.5 trillion. Well, Fauci and the health secretary, Azar, laughed him off. And so the next day, Navarro put it in print. And the negotiations during the summer for the Abraham Accords, every time Kushner was pushing hard on the Abraham Accords, we were having hurricanes start immediately and within 7 days becoming record-setting in size. Exactly the time he was pushing on the Abraham Accords. And there was like 4 or 5 major hurricanes that summer, record-setting. And the point here is it continued the two-state narrative. It stopped the rightful extension of sovereignty to 134 Jewish communities. And and all the world leaders that were pressuring Israel, don't dare annex that land if you do, because it'll cost you. It's Palestinian land, it's not your land. So within 6 weeks of Trump delivering his peace plan, and almost every major leader in the world says, no, we have our two-state plan. Trump has his, we have ours. Almost 3 billion people were in lockdown worldwide. Was there connection? I don't know, but it was very strange timing. And the big concern that we had is whether President Trump will get reelected or not. And unfortunately, COVID put people into vote by mail. There was a lot of alleged fraud with the machines, paper ballots showing up, and it ended up costing President Trump the election. So once again, if he starts pushing the Abraham Accords and it has anything to do with the covenant land of Israel, there will be consequences.
So, so we're seeing this revive right now as we speak.
Today.
And so what, I mean, what do you think is going to happen?
Tania, you've been watching this very closely.
I think they're going to sign a deal, and I hope that the Lord shall intervene, because Steve Witkoff, and I have written a lot about him, until now, everything that he tries does not succeed. So I'm hoping for, but at the same time, we see that it seems that he is like an instrument of the Lord to put that in place, President Trump. And doing that, I think it's going to be the deal here was about Israel. The trade about Israel, and everything was coordinated. What happened? The beautiful B12, the beautiful war, and that Koenig could not go away. Everything was coordinated by Qatar, and it seems that it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I think, John, I wrote about this when the Abraham Accords came out in the summer of 2020. I said I didn't favor because it stopped extension of sovereignty. At the same time, I said, will this lead to the Bible's Daniel 9:27 covenant? Will this lead to the final covenant? And for us that are watchmen, and right now, President Trump has a very distinctive role in Bible prophecy, like most of our presidents have, especially back to George W. Bush's father, Bill Clinton, George Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden, and now Trump again. He has a very significant biblical position. So the question is, will there be consequences if he continues this path? And number two, will this lead to the Bible's final day covenant of Daniel 9:27, or at least lead up to it?
But it seems that BB is very much involved in this deal. And I consider that he traded Israel for the problems that he's having, and he's going to be in trial in 2 weeks. So I think the consequence can be huge.
So I'm looking up. People are sending me. This is a crazy day. I mean, I'm getting so much information. It's like trying to take a sip from a fire hose. and I'm trying to. So here's a representative. I've officially nominated Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. You know, and there was something he said. Well, I have to verify that it's true because it's disturbing if it's true. And we had there's a lot of, so what's the buzz you're hearing about the success or not of the strike on particularly Fordo and some of the other nuclear sites by the U.S. Air Force last Saturday?
John, we're first of all, you had the precision of our U.S. military was extraordinary.
Amazing.
An amazing effort by the 7 B-2s that flew 36 hours, to the 125 aircraft, to the cruise missiles that were fired off submarines, to fit with what Israel had done for 10 or so days, supernaturally and miraculously. You know, they said they'll let people know. The mainstream media and the people that oppose Trump will never give him credit. If they miss an inch or miss something, or it'll be a big issue. They'll try to make a big issue out of 95% of media is against Trump. There's a couple people believe, and Israel would know this, according to Israel's Mossad leaders, the last couple of days, he said, we will be in Israel, Mossad will be in Israel for many, many years.
You mean in Iran?
Yes.
They'll be in Iran for many years, yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah, in Iran for many years, and that there is a good possibility that, well, he didn't say it specifically, but they believe that 400 pounds of uranium was moved into a mountain area, and that they got that out maybe 1, 2, or 3 days before the U.S. strike. So all in all, I know it's precise. We'll hear more about it from the Pentagon shortly. Trump and his people, Hegseth and Rubio, are saying it was a total success. General Kane. We don't know 100%, but we just know it was an incredible military operation. And at the same time, I think the thing that's very problematic is former President of Russia, Medvedev, said that the international community needs to be providing nuclear weapons to Iran after the U.S. strike.
Yeah, that I think he's tried to walk some of that back.
I'm sure.
But the interesting thing in this is, as I'm thinking about this, you know, Russia had provided Iran with air defense systems. Israel took those out back in October, and now, Russia didn't really step in and provide anything to Iran this time. It was just sort of a tepid support. Do you have any ideas what's up with that?
As far as Russia's lack of support,
Yeah, right. We would have thought Russia might have jumped in.
I think that was part of. I think that was part of Trump's calculus. That China was supposed. You'd heard this, John, that they were already sending transport planes in with hypersonic missiles and possibly some biological weapons. I think Russia's got enough of their own problems right now with the Ukraine. I think some of the Chinese, Russian help to Iran would have increased, was building. And I think that was another concern of President Trump, that the United States was going to have its own issues on our, with sleeper cells, with cyber, with the possibility of weapons being delivered to Iran that could really create some problems for American troops as well as Israel in the Middle East. So a long answer to your question, I think they were prepping, but I think China was the one that was initiating more so than even Russia, because I think Russia's got enough of its own problems right now with the Ukraine.
Yeah, I personally think they're bogged down. It's kind of an interesting dynamic. And I get all sides of the issue sent to me, and some of it's clear propaganda. So I try to filter through it, and figure out what's true. But just any thoughts on the near term, what we might expect, or where do you think this thing with Trump and Netanyahu is going to go in the near term? Do you think this is possible? And then your comments on at least part of this is they're going to sign on to the framework of a two-state solution, assuming the Palestinians get on board, and they're going to back off on sovereignty in a lot of areas of Judea and Samaria to let that happen. Any thoughts on that?
Well, that's interesting. I think it sounds like Witkoff is pretty far down the road. And in terms of getting a deal cut, I know they'd like to have something cut by the UN General Assembly meeting, which is usually the mid to latter part of September. I think there'll be a push. I saw that possibility of sovereignty. I mean, that's pretty incredible. But it was only partial sovereignty, not full sovereignty.
Yeah.
We were at the NRB, Tania and I were at the NRB convention in Dallas, and the NRB, ICJ, and Israel Allies Caucus, we all signed a letter to go to Paula White, to go to the president, that encouraged him to fully back Israel's sovereignty to all of Judea and Samaria. We were hoping for that, praying for that. That's a possibility. I hope it's all of Judea and Samaria. As far as the two-state plan, I don't know about that. Mike Huckabee has been very bold that it's just not realistic. Israel said the same thing before the war. It's just not realistic. I don't know how they appeased the Palestinians, but Tania was telling me this morning that there's a lot of United Arab Emirates and Saudis are going to get very involved in Egypt.
Egypt.
Yeah, Egypt and the United Arab Emirates, I guess more so.
UAE.
UAE, we're going to get involved in the future Gaza.
Yeah, they're going to manage it.
Which is
that's what Witkoff wants.
Yeah, that's what Witkoff wants. And John, this is something I wrote about since November when President Trump was elected. Trump looks at the Middle East as a business deal. He looks at business opportunities. I mean, he's doing business with Saudi Arabia, with Qatar, with Turkey, with Oman, with the Emirates. I just sense it. I mean, these are all business guys, and he thinks, okay, we'll create an economic opportunity for the Middle East. We got a lot of people under 30 that are young, and we're just going to turn this into a whole new entrepreneurial area that future equivalent of the European Union. And he just there's a disconnect totally about Sunni and Shiite Islam.
Yeah.
Well, I need to get going because I've got another interview that I'm doing this time coming up. I really appreciate your
right.
time. And I do know that I owe you an article on Erdogan in Turkey. I wrote
Yeah.
one for you many, many years ago. I need to update that because he's incredibly significant. And I don't know, did you see him and Trump in the front row center there at the NATO meeting yesterday?
Yes.
And at
Saw
the
it.
dinner, the same table.
Same table at dinner. It didn't look like they were talking a lot, but I don't know what the purpose was. You know, it's a NATO member, so yeah, they were did the photo op together. Right after the photo, he kind of just bolted. Trump did. So
right, and Erdogan and Macron had another one of those really weird handshakes yesterday too. So I don't know if you saw that. I want to figure out what's going on there. And I love Georgia Maloney and the way she sort of gives the stink eye to Macron.
Yeah, she's one of Tanya and I really enjoy her. we love her.
Her expressive things. Anyway, thank you so much. I'll put some links in the show notes. We'll do this again, and we'll look forward to you. Watch.org, The Kingdom Come, and WilliamKoenig.com. You can catch all of their things and follow them. And Bill's books are also available on those things. What was the old Chinese curse they say? May you live in interesting times. I think we're living in interesting times. So,
to say the least.
Bill and Tanya, thank you so much. We'll talk. If you will just hang on for a minute, I'll say goodbye to you on the other side. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, everybody.